Alright, Keepergate. I've recorded this video twice. Once, it took about 15 minutes, and the second time, I deleted it. So I'm going to be as quick as I fucking can here because I'm sweating. I dressed up like this just for you, and I'm a little cranky. There's a problem in the Constitution. There are two rules regarding keeper values, or two specific rules that are in question. Number one states that the as drafted value of the player is their keeper value, i.e. if someone's drafted in the third round, they're a third round keeper. There's a second section regarding players who are picked up off of waivers. That section states that in the event that someone's picked up via FAB, their keeper value is determined by their total points for the year as ranked within their position. These two rules kind of contrast one another. My intent was always to have the waiver wire rule supersede the as drafted rule, such that if somebody was drafted, then dropped, then picked up again, their keeper value would be determined using the waiver wire pickup section. However, it's come to my attention that there are several people, if not more than half the league, that were not of that impression, and they believe that the as drafted value stayed with the player even if they were drafted or dropped and then picked up again. Unfortunately, Adrian Peterson is making the situation far worse, given that he's a fucking stud. Drafted in the first, played a game, dropped, picked up again. Based on how I had intended the rule to be interpreted, he is going to be a 14th round keeper for this year. I want to make everybody happy. I want to upset the least amount of people, but I also want to do what's right and what's fair. Unfortunately, we had kind of two factions of the league moving forward on independent paths, interpreting the rule one way or the other, and their behavior was adjusted accordingly. So people did certain things that they wouldn't have done otherwise had they interpreted the rule differently. So I'm more or less stuck between a rock and a hard place here, and I want to apologize to everyone given that this is absolutely my fault. The rules themselves are not clear. I will be making them more clear moving forward. However, that still leaves us in the situation that we're in, and we need some type of resolution. One of the problems with the waiver wire pickup section of the rule, if interpreted how I had intended it to be interpreted, is that it is open for abuse, and somebody had posted about it earlier in the week. You could essentially hoard your FAB money if you were an owner of a special case like AP. Wait till everyone's FAB money is less than yours, drop them the next day, pick them up, bid your whole FAB. Now you've got basically a free keeper for the player in question. That's within the rules. I don't think it's cheating. However, I don't particularly like it ethically. I think it's really just not in the best interest of the league, so I want to avoid any rule that has the opportunity to be abused in that way. So, moving forward, after this year, the drafted value of the player will stay with the player even if they're dropped. So for this year, in the case of AP, if this were to happen next year, he would draft it in the first, dropped, picked up again, he would still be a first round value keeper. However, for this year, given that some of the league did interpret the rule the other way, we will be doing something special for this year and this year only. For this year, players who were drafted, dropped, and then picked up again, their value will be determined by whatever round is lowest, whether it's the drafted rule or the waiver wire pickup rule. So in the case of Adrian Peterson, he was drafted in the first, so per the drafted section of the Constitution, he'd be a first round value. His value per the waiver wire rule is 14th. This year he's going to be a 14th round keeper. The opposite end of that spectrum is someone like Odell Beckham, who was drafted in the 15th, dropped, and then picked up. Per the drafted rule, he's a 15. Per the waiver wire rule, he's like a 4. This year he's going to be a 15 because that is the lowest round and that's the best round for the owner. So I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, whether you interpreted the rule one way or the other. I apologize if that interpretation affected your behavior. However, what I can do now to best rectify the situation is that make sure everybody who has those special players that were drafted, dropped, and picked up, their value will be the lowest possible and the best for you. Moving forward, we'll do the as drafted. For this year, it'll be whatever's best for the owner. For the players that applies to, the either or, i.e. AP, Odell Beckham, Ben Roethlisberger, this year, their value will be whatever is best for you. I've gone through and updated everyone's keeper values on the site for this new interpretation, and I'll also document it in the Constitution. However, moving forward, i.e. in the case of AP, per our rules, if he was a 14th round keeper this year, he should be a 12th round next year. That will not be the case. Next year, he will be whatever his value would have been had we followed the drafted rule this year, i.e. he'll be a first round keeper next year. For someone like an Odell Beckham, he's a 15th round this year based on the rule. That happens to be where he was drafted, so next year he'll be a 13th rounder. I can't think of another good player example, but if a certain player was drafted in the 5th this year, dropped and then picked up, and their keeper value is, say, the 12th. The 12th is better for the owner, it's the lower round. This year he'll be a 12th. Next year he would be a 3rd. That is the 5th round draft value this year, less 2 rounds, which follows exactly what the Constitution say and what it will say moving forward. I think that's the best way to do it. I hope I've outlined this clear enough for everybody. I'm going to cut this video off because it's already going on 7 minutes. Please leave me any comments. You can bitch all you want. I think I've heard it all already. I'm still open to anybody's opinion. That's fine, but the ruling's done. If there's any clarification needed or if I wasn't clear enough here, please let me know and I will expand upon it. I'll do my best to put together a spreadsheet, like I said, with the values for this year and next for the players that fall into that special category. And I hope this makes everyone at least somewhat happy and not too angry. I apologize for the circumstances. However, I think this is the right thing to do. Good night.